Hello and welcome to another episode of Off the Rock, your weekly rugby breakdown with me, John Ferguson, and my boy Lachie from Scrumbags is back as well. Lachie, how are you doing?
Virgo, I'm good, mate. It's good to see you back. You survived your trip to the wild, wild west. I'm sure you got plenty of interesting tidbits coming out of the force that you're going to share in the next few weeks, but it's good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks, mate. And it was actually such a stellar trip. Thank you for asking. It was awesome to just get over there, chat with the force, be in their environment, watch them train, and then also talk with Simon Cron, the coach, and then a couple of other players and obviously staff there as well. And it was just so interesting to see their vision and just be in that team environment. I think often, even today we're going to talk about the Wallabies of France. That's what we're going to talk about, and also a little bit of other just random rugby news, but it's just really interesting to be in the heart of a team like that. And obviously, they're going into preseason; they're not playing any games at the moment, but it really does take on a different lens for you when you know when you've been in that situation yourself, training preseason. You're trying to, the world's your oyster. You've got lots of plans, and then it's just about how you embed those. So then that's what we're going to get into on the channel, and that's the chat that I had with Simon Cron. So keep your eye out for that in December. I'm super keen to bring that to you guys. And we're just going to get straight into the Wallabies chat now, but don't forget to like and subscribe here. And if you like the channel, you like the content, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. That really helps us with the algorithm. That helps me with the algorithm, and it helps us grow the game as well. Don't forget to check out Lockie and his ragtag bunch of men who do their stuff on Scrumbag Pods on all your favorite Spotify podcast platforms. Trying to find my words this evening is more difficult than not. Believe it or not,
It's that
WH
Perth jet
gives you
lag. It's tough. They
jet
didn't make you
lag.
do a
Yeah,
Bronco, did they?
yeah, absolutely, it does. I don't know why, but 3 hours matters to me, so it does. But Lockie, what do you say? Let's just get straight into the Wallabies and Friends preview.
Let's go.
So, Lockie, we're here chatting after yet another Wallabies loss, and this is not to look back at Ireland, but almost everything went wrong there. There was lineouts going left, right, anywhere but center, and then there were the tackle stats were actually okay. They were actually not terrible. I think they were like 87 or something like that. So like we were actually fine. The attack we again faltered. We faltered at key moments, and then the game plan didn't look like it was particularly expansive. I thought James O'Connor tried his hardest to be able to find space, but that didn't happen. And then now we're sitting here again, staring down the barrel of um, a very explosive and unpredictable France. France, despite being one of the best teams in the world, I think still are one of the most unpredictable sides. And that actually gives us something to look forward to at the weekend because we're not quite sure about what French team is turning up. But how are you doing after what's happened, feeling, and then going into this game coming up?
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. It's been a long year. Like there's been a lot of talk about player fatigue, welfare, is it right punching out 15 tests? All I can say is I'm pretty tired after watching that Wallabies Island game. Like it was a hard watch, and we're not going to, dig up the corpses again. But you mentioned the tackle stats. I think it's easily padded when we don't even lay a hand on, or we're not in the right spot to make the tackle in the first place, as per the two opening tries for Mackie Hansen, Canberra's
Return
Irish
of the Mac.
finest. Yeah, exactly. So I just think I think that everything that could have gone wrong did, and it was a perfect storm around selection, around play style, and getting totally tactically outgunned in wet Irish conditions. As for what this week presents, well, it presents an opportunity, a pretty big carrot to avoid some unwanted history, as I'm sure you'll get to in a moment. But the Wallabies do not want to be the team that finishes with a 33% win ratio in what has been such an important year for getting eyeballs back on rugby. There's got to be something to take out of this European tour. So I think that there will be improvement. And I say that out of a place of both necessity and optimism, Fergo. But yeah, tell me a bit about this record for the Wallabies that we're currently looking at.
Yeah, so the Wallabies are staring down the barrel of a 67-year-long run of if they do not win this game against France, it'll be 67 years that they haven't won a game on their European tour. So that's not what you want to see. That's not a record. I mean, we broke the 62-year hoodoo in Ellis Park. We do not want to be making a longer stretch or breaking that kind of record. We want to be breaking good types of records. But we do not want to be setting that one, and this team definitely does not want to be setting that. As for what we're looking at, what the Wallabies are staring down the barrel of in terms of their opposition, or perhaps more so themselves, the Wallabies really do need to throw the kitchen sink at this. And I'm not talking about effort, because talking with some of the Wallaby boys, like talking with a couple of the Wallaby boys that are in the Western Force setup, talking to someone today actually that works in the space, really, they are just saying that this person that I spoke to today, the lack of cohesion and the lack of regularly picking the same starting 15, even stretching out to the 23, that does all types of things to your ability to actually execute a game plan and have faith in the guys around you. Not so much because they don't trust each other, just because they haven't played enough games together. And so that chopping and changing is really is no surprise that we're getting very, very mixed results, not so much on the score line, but when we're trying to achieve our game plan. And I think I want to start here with, again, we need to make sure that we pick players that will get us over the game line, because I'm pretty sure that I'm almost positive that the difference between the third lines test and the second lines test and Ellis Park, and what happened in Ireland on the weekend and what may happen in France, is the fact that we are not getting over the game line. Our ruck speed last weekend, I will look this up again, but against England, our ruck speed was faster than England. It was far faster than Italy, across all three categories, which is 0 to 3 seconds, I think it's 4 to 6 seconds, and 6+ seconds. We had majority in the lower two categories, and that was across those two teams. I will give you the Ireland stats in a sec, but we just have to make sure that we pick the side that looks like a test nation side. And that means tall locks, that means big locks, and that means other ball players in and around in the back line and in the forward pack. They're going to get us over the game line. What do you make of that, Lachie? How are you seeing that sort of the way that the Wallabies need to approach their last game to be able to make sure that their game plan that Joe Schmidt is so clearly sticking with is going to succeed?
Yeah, geez, games with Big Willie Skelton and games without. It's a massive part of that Schmidt's plan when it's successfully put into play, right? It's having your man mountain going forward, and without him, we just have lacked that punch. I have been surprised by the underutilization of Lucan. I know he's been a sort of talking point for us throughout the season, and how should he best be used in the absence of Raw Skelton. And we saw him pick up that, I think it looked like a rib injury against Japan. And since then, he just hasn't had much game time and the impact that we would have liked, whether it's by his own injury or selection and just not being used that way. So I think we're always in trouble with Tommy Hooper going in as a second rower against Ireland. That set piece was picked apart. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we revert to a much bigger second and lock pairing. So you get Nick Frost in, Tom Hooper potentially gets to run in on the starting back row, just to add a bit more grunt to it as well. So I think size matters, and the more we can fit in there, the better. It's interesting when you don't have Skelton and Tupou, who wasn't used last week. You think, who are the really big dominant carriers outside of Valentini and Bell? Wilson at the moment is currently a passive runner, not as much punch as we'd like to see. McWright's been very good in defence, but not so much in attack. And neither Williams nor, you have to say, Alan Alatoa really carried particularly strongly against the Irish. So there's changes that can be made there. But yeah, God, against that, the size of that French pack is imposing, and they will be fresh after resting a lot of those players against Fiji too. That was quite a new look French side, but still managed to kick clear of the flying Fijians. So I'm expecting a pretty tough attritional battle up front, and I'd say the French have the edge at this point.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment. Absolutely. I think what's really interesting is when you start talking about selection is that you also need to consider about what those players are doing. And I think, again, the Wallabies lacked any sort of deception, even within their three-man pods when they were running. There was rarely two things happened. There was rarely, when the carrier carried, there was rarely opportunity for him to shift left or right to be able to give some sort of second wind to that three-man pod and to be able to put a defender in two minds. And then when they did pass it, they passed it too flat and late, and we dropped a fair few balls. And so those balls just skilled out and we lost possession in really good attacking opportunities in the 22. So we all of a sudden tried to revert away from what we've been doing all season, or not, maybe not all season, the last, let's say at least the European tour and the Northern Hemisphere tour. And then the players just weren't ready because they were so set on clearing, as in clearing the eventual ruck that they thought was going to happen. So I think it's just the players are just so in their, it seems like they're so in their head about trying to, one, achieve the game plan. And then two, some people who are usually carrying the ball are trying to change the picture of attack because they can feel all the eyes of the defenders homing in on them, and they're locked in and they're ready to tackle them. And they're like, if I take this, I'm going to get smashed. And 9 times out of 10, particularly in this island game, the Wallabies did get smashed. And so I think that this week is about sleight of hand. This week is about run the game plan. I don't think the game plan necessarily is the issue. I promise you, if the Wallabies have been playing the same way all year. Like it's not like, and it's worked against the British and Irish Lions. It's worked against the Springboks. It's worked against the All Blacks. Not that we won, but we still managed to get points. We managed to get over the top of them. We almost made that break when down the left flank when James O'Connor and Lenny Kitao made a great interplay, and then it was Artie Sevilla who stopped the attack with a great pilfer just inside or outside his 22. The Wallabies were able to break these really good defensive teams open, but it is really about this lack of gain line ball. And to be fair, I think that Angus Bell really hasn't been able to carry over the gain line in a whole bunch of his carries when he started the games after James Slipper retired. I really do think that he was doing his best work off the bench. And Rob Valentini, he hasn't really found his form. And it's just difficult when you've got such an elite player like Tom Hooper, who is actually getting gain line ball. And then you've got Harry Wilson, who's been a little bit more muted in the carries than he was earlier in the year. And then as you mentioned, you're not playing Lukan Solakailoto, who at least he's big enough to attract lots of players' gaze when he runs the ball. So I think Tupou is a must in the front row to start. Lukan is a must in the second row alongside Nick Frost. And I'm still very keen to see either Wilson. I'm not as convinced now, either Wilson or Valentini on the bench to add impact. I'm not as convinced that those two are doing a good enough job together on the field to start with to justify moving Tom Hooper out. And then I think, yeah, Fraser McWright. But I think you have to have Carlo Tizzano on the bench because he definitely is someone that carries well. And then you have to also put him on the bench, and you have to put him on the field with more than 10 minutes to go. You've spoken at length on several podcasts when you've been on here about the timing of substitutions. And Goldschmidt needs to trust Ryan Lonergan. If he doesn't start this weekend, he needs to get at least 30 minutes, and he needs to trust his reserve second rowers. What are you seeing in the back line? What is going to happen? What do you want to see happen? How do we execute the game plan and use our players that we have right now to be able to get the best result on the weekend?
Well, I mean, it all stems from 9 and 10, but who's your 9 and 10? I mean, people might know once they're tuning in, tomorrow, a couple of days from now, but it is so up in the air as to who partners the likely front runner in Jack Gordon in that 10 jersey, bearing in mind that there have been multiple reports around James O'Connor, why he's left, but all we know is that he's no longer part of the squad travelling to France. He's staying with Leicester Tigers. Make of that what you will. So it leaves you with a total of 3 playmaking options, the foremost being Tane Edmed and Carter Gordon. You also have Hamish Stewart, who was used there in the final minutes of Japan, who is not a noted fly half. So given the selection, it's really a roulette between Carter and Tane, right? Carter's preferred in Italy. Looked like he added more to the attack than Edmed did. Edmed has had more experience there throughout the year. So where do you land? What combination works? I don't think either fly half actually partners well with Jack Gordon. To be honest, I think the best balance is probably Jake with Carter, insofar as Jake's kicking game can complement Carter's longer ball throwing and running and offers a different threat to Tane. But far out, like again, if with it, whatever halves combo you go, it's still a change. It's still a deviation from any form of coherence, and that is so frustrating after the year that we've had, after such the hot start with the consistent selections around after Lolacia's injury, Jake Gordon being preferred with Lolacia and Liner. I mean, far out. Like, it's just, how many combinations do you think we've had this year? Eight in the halves, chopping and changing. It's been.
I think I got told a stat today that it was that the fly half has changed 10 times this year.
Yep, 10 in 15, and we might have a 11th different combination. Yep. So it's so frustrating. We can't get coherence. The only way to get that when we don't have a stable structure is to have front foot ball and front foot runners, but we're not getting that. Far out, Fergo. I think we should consider having a look at a Paisami Ikitau combination just for something different in the midfield against France. I know this is something that you've spoken about before, but it is apparent that despite his talent, Suaalii is just not getting enough ball in space at 13. I think this is the perfect weekend to try him at fullback against France. This is probably going to get shot down because we have a Jorgensen, we have a Kellaway. I don't think either of those people have excelled. And as much as we call for consistency, Suaalii played the majority of his Super Rugby back at fullback for the Tars. And I just think with the high ball problems that we had against Ireland, why not put your best aerial threat back there, put two recognised centres who have an existing combination there, and see what happens. It can't get any worse. And the passiveness of the Suaalii 13 defensive channel, I know it's got your goat and it's certainly got mine. We are not making ground at all in defense. And a lot of that's down to what Joey is not doing in the 13 channel currently. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question there. I've probably raised more of my own, but hopefully it makes sense, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on some of those.
No, I'm glad. I'm really happy with where you went with all of that. I think I'll answer in reverse order, and I'll throw back to you at a couple of points.
Very fair.
Number one, with Joseph Akuso Suaalii, it's not time right. I don't think it's time for him right now. And I know as much Schmidt likes, I don't want to confuse Joseph. As you and I have kind of said, he doesn't look settled in the 13 jersey right now, and either. That's not expected to be. How many 13? This is his first full year in rugby union, and he's started almost all his tests in the 13 jersey. Like, I think he has started every single one of his games in 13 jersey.
The only game he came off the bench for was Wales in his second game, so he's had a very torrid run.
Yeah. And so then I just think if you put him on the wing, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a really strong defender. You're going to get a really capable aerial threat. And you're going to get someone who doesn't have to do as much defensive communication. What I do fear, though, is that someone like Tomo Ramos or Intermac or Jalibert will absolutely annihilate his misplay in positioning in the back three. Like, if you think that our back three, if our high ball has been an issue, I can promise you that if Jorgensen has been about 10 to 15 meters out of position in that Italy game, that is about what Suaalii is going to be as well. Because even when Kellaway was fullback with Jorgo, that communication was not clear enough. And that's a Waratahs partnership. That's a Wallabies partnership. And so then I'll answer the next one. So then if you want to pick an almost all Waratahs backline that didn't do particularly well this year, obviously Jorgensen was injured, you can go Jake Gordon, Hayne Edmed, 9-10. Then you can go Dylan Pietsch, who was at the Western Force this year, but at the Waratahs previously and has played with all these boys. They were there when they beat the Crusaders at Leichhardt. Legendary moment. You can put him on one wing. You can put Joseph Akuso Suaalii on the other wing, and then you can. Oh, sorry, you can put Jorgensen on the other wing, and then you can put either Andrew Kellaway or Joseph Akuso Suaalii at fullback. That is almost a Waratahs total fullback backline. That is more cohesion that you're getting out of anything. But they haven't played this system, so that doesn't necessarily give you plus minus any points either. And then if you go for consistency, well, Lenny Kitau, Joseph Akuso Suaalii played the most games, and then obviously Taylor Edmonds, you're 9 there, and then it makes so you're 10 there. It makes sense to have Jake Gordon at number 9, and then it makes sense to have Jorgensen on one wing because that's kind of the back line that's been the most consistent since I think I'd have to say the Northern Tour, and then also stretching back into the Bledisloe games. And then you're going to have to look at fullback. Well, you've only really got Andrew Kellaway, and if you don't play, because you've already put Joseph Kuso Suaalii in the 13 jersey. But what I would like to see is Ryan Lonergan at 9, Carter Gordon at 10, Hunter Paisami at 12, Lenny Kitau at 13, Dylan Pietsch on the left wing. I want to drill down on Dylan Pietsch with you because he is so I think he is fundamental to how this backline is going to look and the success of the backline. And then Jorgensen on the other wing. And you know what? I'm going to agree with you just for the fact that I think that even though I have raved about Andrew Kellaway, I have written articles highlighting his great abilities on running lines. He has just not been able to deliver with the experience pool that he has in an organizational kind of manner. And I think that he doesn't offer what Suaalii could in attack nor in defense, if I'm going to be 100% honest. So throw the kitchen sink at them. That's what I would like to see. That's the backline I'd like to see with Joseph Akuso Suaalii at number 15 and put Kells on the bench. Put Kells on the bench because he does offer great coverage and he's very experienced alongside Tane Edmed and Jake Gordon. That is a good bench to bring on. That's depth. Like you bring on a player there for anyone at any time, you've got yourself pretty comfortable. Quick take on that back line.
I love this. I like that we're tired. You've come back from WA and this has gone into ramble territory because rambling is where we do our best work. It's where we come to the fore.
Sorry,
and
apologies for everyone watching.
Oh no, don't. I'm thriving in this. I think I like the balance there, and I like the Lonergan with Carter Gordon. It gives us a recognised goal kicker crucially as well in Arlon. And then just I like the little tidbits that we saw from Carter against Italy. The fact that you've got a running threat, a 10 that breaks the line. Like, wow. When's the last time we saw 10s, Chancellor Armand go through? I'm thinking Lolosio, South Africa, 2002. Maybe Adelaide Oval. Like that's probably the last time that really springs to mind.
This year after before he injured himself.
Of course,
he did the exact same move. God,
that move, and man, isn't he this the forgotten man in this whole mess? Is Noah Lolosio? Wouldn't you kill?
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. We could that's a whole nother podcast. That's the Lolosio podcast.
4-hour episode.
Another one. Yeah,
but no, I like the balance, and I agree with Kellaway's coverage on the bench. I honestly, at this point, I wouldn't actually mind that being swapped out and having Suaalii come off the bench for the last half an hour, just for a different picture, and let him inject some energy, some enthusiasm. The suits would probably disagree. Put in your 1.8 or whatever he is on the pine, but I think you need to throw a different picture at France. They're a better team than they've led on in these past 2 weeks against Africa and Fiji, with established big body threats as well in the back line. It's not just the whippets like Bielle-Biarrey. Penau is huge. He's a monster. Ramos is more physical than is, kicking and general Nonsari led on. And they've got some big, strong centers. So it's going to be such an epic battle. And what a way to finish too, like just the spectacle of it, even with the fatigue that we have after these games, you can't not be excited about 90,000 at Stade de France. So it's there's a lot to like about it, and I was interested to see if there might have been like a Kalani Thomas, just a bit of a tease, someone new to feature at the end of the tour. But I don't see what you gain from throwing a bloke in for 5 minutes at the end of
No.
that. It's clear that he's there to put box kicks ups and hold tackle bags at this point. So maybe next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, no. I mean, if he does get picked, congratulations to him.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I wouldn't assume so. But let's see what we know. The message in the comments. Let us know. Yeah, I mean, before we return to the Wallabies, I think France have a lethal side. They're without Dupont, they're without a couple of their key members, but they've got Miafu, they've got Taofifanua in the second row, absolute mega humans, like skeleton sized, if not bigger sized humans. Then they've got Jalonch and Olivon and Aldrit, absolute battering rams in the back row, and they are big, muscular men who love the attritional forward play. And then they've obviously got Flamon as well, who's very skillful. I'd say he's kind of like our Nick Frost, if not a bit more physical in the white headgear there. They got John Baptiste Gros in the front row. And then they've got obviously Maxime Luku and Lagarek doing the business at number 9 before feeding it to Intermac or Jalibert. And Deportier, absolute mammoth palm on that guy. If that ends up being the 13 clash with Suaalii, that is going to be freaking scary because those two blokes don't look like they're going to take a step backward. You've also got Barassi. I've been very impressed, but honestly, my favorite player, like in the French side, one of them is Moefana, one of the most underrated players. Obviously, not available at the moment. I'm not too sure. I think he's injured. And so you've got the likes of Gael Ficou as well, but I think he's injured as well from memory. But this will come out, and you guys will be able to watch this. You'll be able to watch the selections and let us know what you think in the comments below. Just to finish up on the Wallabies here, Lock Dylan Pietsch. I think that had he not been injured, he actually alone could have turned a game like Italy and turned a game like England. He is such an elite operator with his defensive reads that I think that's where he ultimately helps us the most. His ability to jam, end an attack, and then also be able to get over the ball, slow the ball down in defense is something that we've really missed with having the likes of Corey Toole, Harry Potter, and Max Jorgensen on the wings. All electric, great footwork, really quick. But Filippo Dangunu, kind of in the similar mold to Dylan Pietsch, but not quite as certain as Dylan Pietsch about his actions. And I really can't wait. And I do hope that Dylan Pietsch gets his shot back on the wing because for me, I think he's been one of the Wallabies' best backs all year when he has played.
I agree. Again, it's for me, it's players who have time in the 7 circuit, particularly outside backs, have better all-round skills. I think probably an exception to that rule is Corey Toole, but he was so successful because of his pace that it probably negated the need to upskill in other areas. Peachy, who is quick but not super quick, is one of the best one-on-one defenders, great jockey, solid under the high ball, great over the pill too. So I love having an all-round baller in your wing channel. It's not just about finishing. The game is too complex for that now. You need to have an all-round game. And I think Pietsch is probably our best balanced winger. You're right about Lipo as well. I was really impressed by his performances against the Irish as well. He had some great reads in defense. He can jam so well. And a lot of that time he spent playing at 13 at the Reds, I think, has really helped that too. He's a much smarter footballer, I think, than when he first burst onto the scene a few years ago. So another good option as your 23 cover, or to start on a wing too. But yeah, love the look of Peachy. It's great to see that conversion across from sevens as well. And we can roll up the old trope about playing back row first, but I think what you've got there is just a solid physical winger that has a balance across all skill sets, and it's a blessing having a player, I think, that intelligent in the back line as well.
We'll see what the selections are with the Wallabies. I hope that they do pick similar to what we want, what you and I want. You know how they watch this program and they watch this show and they're like, oh yeah,
Religiously.
yes, selection. We're part of the selection committee, really. Quickly before you go, Lockie, one last thing before I do ask you a bit more of a sociable question. Um, Forward pack. What do you want to see Give me your starting 8, and then are you going a 6-2 split or no?
Great question. I'm not sure we can afford a 6-2 split given our lack of playmaking depth. So I think it'll be a 5-3. I think the starting pack will look a bit like.
What do you want it to look like? Not
Well,
Will.
what I
What
want
do
it
you
to look
want it
like
to
is
look like?
different. What I want
Yeah,
it to look like
yeah.
is Ross, Pollard, Tupou. Actually, no. Ross, Pollard, Alatoa. I want Salakai Loto and Frost. I want Hooper, McWright, and Valentini is what I would love to see. We've sort of
Who's
gone
on your
over the back
bench?
line before. And then on the bench, I would love to see Fazla, Bell, Tupou as your bench front row and give him half an hour. Give him a really good crack, maybe even a bit more, seeing how the first half fares. You need Williams off the pine, supported by Tizano. And then you've got your Gordon, probably Edmed, but I'd almost consider Hamish Stewart. I think you need Edmed just because of Carter Gordon's hip. And then Callaway providing coverage for fullback as well.
Yeah, that's pretty close to mine as well. But I'm going to start Ross, Pollard, Tupou. I'm going to have Lucan and Frost. The same back row that you have. Um, yeah, the same back row that you have. And then obviously the props is going to change over. So I'm going to have Bell coming off the pine. Um, who's our other hooker? NASA and Fezler, yeah, Fezler and Toa off the pine, along with could I pick Canham and just keep Salakai Loto on for 80? Yeah, it. I'll do that. I'll pick Canham. I want to see Canham and Lucan go at it in the second row together, and then Tizano, and then I've already named the back one. So there you go. So let's see what happens, guys. Let us know. Sorry for my language there. I got hyped up and I'm tired.
Fergo, can we quickly talk about how neither of us picked Harry Wilson?
Yeah, well,
Wallaby
yes.
captain, mate.
One sentence from you, one sentence from me. Go.
He's not delivering currently, and he needs an early shower.
He is just has done so much of the Wallabies, and I don't think that he can do too much more. That's not a dig at him. It's just kind of just where I'm seeing things go.
100%. Bloke's busted his guts all year and needs someone with a bit more zip left.
Yeah. So there we go. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe here. And Lachie, you and I, we're going to be chatting on the socials, and we're going to be putting it out to the people on Instagram, on X, on everything. But until then, my friend, enjoy your time and thank you so much.
Matt, absolute pleasure. Looking forward to one last hurrah this year.
Let's go to you guys. Enjoy it as well. Ciao.